The number one most common question that I get is, how long did it take you to recover from focal dystonia? In all honesty, I'm not so sure. It took me 10 years from the point that my whole hand tensed up from the moment I put my hand on the keyboard to the point that I had no problem playing standard repertoire consistently and comfortably. The reason why I say I'm not so sure how long it took me is because looking back, I was very inconsistent with my approach, and it took me a long time to figure out what exactly worked and what didn't. And I went through many trials and errors, and there were some periods of times that I didn't put any effort nor time into retraining. So a whole chunk of those years were times that I won't be able to count as the actual time that contributed to my recovery. If by pure magical accident, if I ever got the same exact symptoms and problems today as the present day me, I will know how to recover within a few weeks or few months. I know exactly what to expect at every step along the way. I have a deep understanding of what this condition is, or at least what my particular condition was. And I also understand why I was so susceptible to it in the first place. But if I, as a present day me, myself, would take like a time machine and taught all the mechanisms of the retraining to the younger self, I doubt that the younger day me would have recovered right away anyway. It's because the younger day me is so inconsistent, stubborn, impatient, not taking full responsibility for the situation that she finds herself in, so driven to results without having a real understanding of the importance of the process, and her personal boundaries psychologically between herself and people around her, and somatically between her physical body and things around her like her instrument, is blurry and weak. So she is unsure of herself, which is a very unhealthy place to be at. I will try to explain this on some other occasions. Anyway, many of those traits are still very much a work in progress, but I could totally see how they got in the way of retraining, because you can't be any one of those and have the bandwidth to be facing extremely uncomfortable, boring, tedious, and oftentimes scary inward-directed reflection that you're forced to feel in daily sessions, all while not getting a gratifying instant feedback or sign of instant improvement that you are so used to. So today, I don't regret any bit of going through that lengthy process of finding myself to become a better performer, better musician, and most likely a better person overall. Well, mind you, the mindful pianist is still what I aspire to become one day. Becoming the mindful pianist is always going to be a work in progress. So if you are curious if you will recover, and if you are going to recover, how long it'll take you to fully recover, I'm not sure if my experience will be of the best reference for you. What I would call retraining might be different from what someone else might call retraining, but my retraining concept is fairly simple. I suggest that we practice not reacting dystonically to the triggers associated with a problematic task. Start moving stagnant bits of areas so the body starts recognizing itself, and we work on them. And we work on them by breaking down the sensory experiences into the smallest unit possible. The smallest unit I'm talking about right here is like a snapshot or like a single clip within a video clip. What I might suggest for a couple of weeks is to work on just one single clip. For example, you'll try to get used to touching a specific part of your instrument with a specific part of your finger with a specific pressure at a specific angle, while your body maintains the most natural positioning you are capable of without a full-blown dystonic reaction. You will try to find this fine line where you are about to react dystonically, but you could somehow still manage not to because you still have just enough space to exercise willpower. Many of you who suffer from musician's dystonia, who have experienced any bit of progress, might know what I'm talking about. And this place, being in this place, is really uncomfortable. It's this fine line where you're about to react dystonically, but you are still managing not to. And it's extremely uncomfortable. And this awkward feeling that you experience is precisely the reason why your body consciously and subconsciously avoids this clip altogether, which then will enforce the dystonic programming. So it's essential that you put yourself into this natural positioning, as uncomfortable as it might be for a while. You'll find that your body starts getting used to the idea of not reacting. So you will consciously practice non-reaction despite the overwhelming urge to tense. You will experience sensations of conflicting messages that runs in your body and your head, and the sense of wanting to give up, really. A sense of wanting a much easier, more enjoyable approach that might be able to give you faster results. And that's the trick that your mind will play with you. But if you don't give in and trust the process, your body will start to accept it eventually. It gets better. It gets better slowly and surely and faster as the building block starts to compound by itself. But you need to cultivate your own observation and patience to stick to this. You see, every single one of those clips that you don't react dystonically, when accumulated, will form a continuous movement that you don't react dystonically. So if you keep on finding clips to work on, continue working on them, and you do so until you can't find any more clips to work on, you'll find yourself fully recovered. From my very personal, unscientific, but humanistic observation, a very few that recover in relatively short time frame have the humility, the patience, the maturity, the time, energy, and health, and other resources to go through this uncomfortable process. I've witnessed someone fully recover in a matter of a few months for having many of these elements in their lives. So let me try to paint a picture of someone who have had a swift recovery, full recovery, so you could have sort of an idea on what could possibly work for you and against you. Say this pianist visited me with a very common pianist problem, which is curling of a ring and pinky finger. He's had it for under 3 years, which I would consider a relatively short amount of years since the time of onset, and the symptom was only contained in one small area of his hand. In other words, it hadn't affected much of the larger muscles of his arm and upper body, and he had very minimum thought triggers associated with the symptom. So sometimes, like, a particular thought associated with playing, or a thought of playing in a certain way or certain sequence, can trigger a dystonic reaction even without any movement or tactile sensation. But in his case, he had a pretty minimum. He's an active teacher since he teaches at a music conservatory, and genuinely a pleasant person to be around with. His level of performance is really high, and technique is, of course, really solid. And he doesn't have a full-time performance career, which makes it a bit easier than those who does have a full-time performance career, because being a full-time performer can be tough if you feel like you are burdened by the stress and responsibilities of showing up so often to rehearsals and performances, and you cannot allocate as much time and energy to devote to retraining. So this pianist had enough time to devote to retraining, and physical, psychological, and mental energy to devote to retraining. He was otherwise healthy and kept an active lifestyle and took care of himself. he had only minimum stress in his life other than the stress of not being able to play, which of course I must address that not being able to play is a big stress factor by itself. But considering many others who have so many other factors that contributes to their stress level in their daily lives, like other physical and mental health issues, medications, family issues, living situations, financial issues, and whatever other life situation that they find themselves stressful and burdening at that time, I would say this pianist had a very minimum. And really, it helps not to have other crises going on at the same time when you're retraining. I have witnessed someone with so much dedication and with open-mindedness and humility and enjoyment completely regain playing in full capacity in very, very short time, and claims that they could play better than how they played before the onset of focal dystonia. I still consider these as exceptional cases, but the key elements I see in musicians who recover fairly fast are pretty common. I hope that I got to elaborate on your how long did it take you to fully recover question. I could only talk through my own experience. So if you would like to share something with the wonderful musicians and people in the community, please do so in the comments section. See you next time.